Hi everyone, my name is Eva. I am a knitter, a stitcher, a maker and merchant, and this is a video podcast about everything I have been knitting and sewing in October 2024. So welcome along, I hope you are well. I have got some socks to show you this time and a new cast on in knitting. I am wearing something that I'm going to show you in the dressmaking section, and I've got some project bags and things to show you at the end of the video that I've been making this month as well, because you can also find me at cocoandflora.com where I sell the bags that I make, and you can find me on Patreon as Coco and Flora where I've got lots of free content as well as a paid level too. So before I get into the knitting, the keen-eyed amongst you might notice something slightly different about my appearance this month. I have indeed got pink hair. It's not the first time I've done this, but I think it is the brightest pink that I've ever done. I don't really like to dye my hair too often, but every now and again I just get so bored with my short brown hair that I can't do anything different with. So I've had this for a couple of weeks now, so we'll see how long it sticks around, but yeah, that's what you're looking at there. So let's start with the knitting and some socks. I think I've shown you one of these maybe before, so I just thought I'd show you the finished pair. I won't say too much about them because I've been over it before, but this is a hand-dyed self-striping yarn from Little French Meadow. I've had it since 2018 and every Christmas comes and goes and I don't knit them up, so I decided to get ahead of the curve this year, and they're finished by mid-October. I should say it's Wednesday the 22nd. No, it's not even Wednesday, Tuesday, but I'm pretty sure it's the 22nd today when I'm recording this. So these are for me. They are a 1x1 twisted rib. I started at the cuff and I usually knit 64 stitches. I like to knit my socks on 2.25 9-inch circular needles, and I use double pointed needles when the circumference gets smaller on the toe and heel, and I like to put waste yarn in, carry on knitting, and then add a heel afterwards, which I just knit to exactly the same formula as the toe. So I weighed my yarn and I've got 35 or 36 grams left of these, so I'm thinking that might be quite nice to use as heel toes and cuffs for like a plain yarn, so that just the contrast parts were patterned. So if I come across a yarn that goes with this, I might save it to do that, otherwise I'll just knit it into my garter stitch blanket. I had it in a tiny little pouch and there's what's left. Quite a lot, I think. So that's those, and then I have also completed another pair of socks this month, which have been living in my little kitty bag. It's got a little cat badge on that my daughter made for me, and a little enamel pin from Shake, which was an illustration festival or an illustration fair that we went to. And let me just pop these onto the blockers. So I'm joining in with the Colourwork Cuff Club, which is a sock knitting year-long, I think, club by Summerlee Designs. Every month you get 1 or 2 charts for colour work to put onto your sock pattern. It does come with a basic sock pattern, but I'm just using what I would normally knit, my own formula, and then just making sure that I've got the right stitch count for whichever chart I'm knitting, because it does vary, I've found out, because I've done a couple now. So the first chart that I've done is one of the first ones that we got in August, and it's these lovely flowers. So I've knit these for my daughter. She quite likes all Achille, and I think that these are very similar to those nice graphic designs, and I've used a little mini that's quite variegated for the flowers, and that was, I'm pretty sure it was from my Beehive Yarns advent calendar that I had a few years ago. As you can see, I've got lots left from a 20-gram mini, and it's nicely variegated, which I think makes the pattern look nice and interesting. Let's see if I can tell which one is the first one. I'm pretty sure this is the first one. I'm the same size foot as my daughter, so I could try these on and make sure that it went over my foot, knowing that that would probably be the same for her. And it does go over my foot no problem, but if I were to be picky, it could have been ever so slightly looser. So that's how I can tell this is the first one, because I think the second one is just slightly looser. So it's got stretch, but I can sort of feel a little bit of resistance in the floats at the bottom there. I think this is the length that the pattern recommended, but of course you could do your leg as long as you like, but I think my daughter likes them just sort of ankle length really. I'll show you my floats. This is the first time I've ever knit a colourwork sock, so I took note of all the other podcasters I've seen talking about the kind of things that they do to make sure that the colourwork is big enough on the cuff. You do go up to a 2.75mm needle for the colourwork part. So I don't think my floats are terribly neat, but not terribly messy either. And yeah, I'm quite happy with the results. So yeah, as I say, the second one I think does seem a little bit more stretchy. And what else did I want to tell you? Oh yes, I thought as all of these charts are knit with a 2.75mm, it would be worth me investing in a little set of 2.75s. Are they in here? Oh no, they're in my other one that I've subsequently started, but just to say that if you're looking for them, I got a pair of higher sharp 2.75mm needles from lovely Ellie at Craft House Magic, and she also has the non-sharp version as well, but I thought I'd go for the sharp in case it just helped me with all of these different strands of yarn. So I'm really chuffed with those, and I'm going to put them in my daughter's advent calendar. Sorry if you're watching, bestie, just pretend it's a surprise. Oh, and the key information I haven't told you is that the red is Yarnsmith's merino sock. That's the brand of yarn that Wool Warehouse makes, and it's my first time knitting with this. It's shade 2K098, and it's a 75% merino wool and 25% nylon, and it is superwash as well. I'm really impressed with it. I enjoyed knitting with it. It's very soft and squishy, and it's a good price point. I bought this on sale, and I think it's still on sale, and it was £5.50 for 100 grams, which is a real bargain. I also bought some cream coloured ones to use to dye yarn, because that's like quite an economical price for experimenting with that. It comes in a roll rather than a skein, so I just hand wound it into a ball, so it was a bit easier to work with, and that was nice. I think that's a really nice way to work with yarn, a nice old-fashioned round ball of yarn. And I've got 55 grams left of this, and my youngest wants a whole collection of odd socks to wear as pairs, but all different colours in solid yarn. So 55 grams is more than enough to knit one sock, so that will be a good use to use leftovers like that. So that will be a fun project to embark on. I'll probably cast one on now that I've shown that to you. And then continuing on with the Colourwork Cuff Club, September's charts have kind of passed me by because I was busy with August's, and the October charts came out and I'd really like to knit both of them. The first one that I'm not doing right now is apples, and I love fruit as a motif. I love apples, pears, strawberries, cherries, peaches. So I'm looking forward to knitting those, but first of all I wanted to knit the little ghosty chart, and I did have a brown yarn. Do I have it here? Yes. I was wanting to knit my ghosts out of this very pale brown that I dyed, but I could not find a yarn as the main colour to go with it. And I was going down the unnecessary route of just having a look online to see what colours might go with it. And then the sensible part of me said, Eva, you must knit from stash. You've got plenty of yarn. So that made me think of all of my lovely Drops Nord that I've got. That is one of my favourite sock yarns, particularly in the colder weather, because it's really comfortable and squishy. So I always reach for those first, and I thought about this lovely lilac colour. I think the colourway is called Orchid. I've got lots of button yarn. I was going to say button bands. I've got lots of yarn bands in here, so I'm not sure if I can tell you the colourway, but anyway, I'm pretty sure it's called Orchid. And I thought that would be a lovely main colour. And then I thought the only thing that's got a chance of showing up in contrast with that is cream. So luckily I had 50 grams of cream as well. And I expect that there's no way I could get a pair of socks out of just 50 grams. So I also got a beige, which has got 2 yarn bands on. So I'm guessing one of these is the Orchid. I expect it's colour 25 because it's one of the newer colours, and beige is 07, and I think the cream is 01. Yes, so I got that, thinking that I'll probably need it at least for the toes, and then I cast on. Here's my 2.75 hires for the actual colourwork part. And I cast on with a little bit of beige at the top, just the cast on and the first row of ribbing. I did 2x2 ribbing, which is different to the basic pattern, but just what I wanted to do. And here are my wee ghosties. So again, I think it's stretchy enough. I think that has probably come at the expense of a bit of neatness with my ghosts. I was having a look at some of the projects online, and these mouths are very defined, whereas mine look a little bit weird, especially this one. There's a row between the eyes and the mouth, and I know that I didn't accidentally knit a stitch because I actually cut the yarn between those 2 rows just so I didn't have to do any managing. I just thought I'll weave in the extra ends. But because of my erratic tension, this stitch looks like it's right next to the eyes, and it doesn't really matter. I'm only telling you because we're knitters and we like the details. Galloping horses wouldn't see it, as my grandma used to say, so I'm not going to worry about a tiny mouth on a tiny ghost on a tiny sock in a tiny town in a tiny country. But I do think that mine look a little bit more like basset hounds than ghosts. You know, when you used to draw dogs as a child and you would do the nose and then those kind of curling out lines, I feel like that's what some of my faces look like. But nevertheless, I absolutely love this sock so far, and it's this colour. I'm really enjoying just looking at this colour. And so that's why I think I'm hoping, I've put my waist yarn in for my heel. I'm hoping I'll have enough to do the heels in the Orchid so that it doesn't get broken up. So you've got this nice solid block of the pale purple, and then if necessary beige toes, but I'll weigh it when I've done. I think I'll leave both of the toes until the end, and then if I've got anywhere near 10 grams left, which is unlikely, I'll be able to knit with the orchid, but if not, the beige. But aren't they cute? I really love them. So I only cast this on Sunday. This colourwork chart is at about just over half of the rows that the other one was, so I was able to do all that quite quickly and then just progress on with the simple knitting. And I think that's the loveliest thing about this colourwork cuff club, is that you've got all this lovely interest but then a nice relaxing knit afterwards, so your project will progress quite quickly. So I'm looking forward to getting those done, and I think they're for all year round because ghosts are around every time of year, not just October. And that's living in one of my own patchwork bags. So that's it for socks this month, but I do have a out of nowhere new cast on to show you, and this is because I was very inspired by lovely Daniela of A Knitter's Suitcase podcast. Daniela, in her latest episode, was showing a finished version of the Corin cardigan, which is a pattern by Rebecca Clow of the Crayabea podcast. And it was knit in a really beautiful combination of a pink yarn held together with a mohair, and it was just beautiful. And I was inspired because I have a similar combination of yarn. It's not quite the right weight and it's not quite the right quantity, but I thought I would have a go anyway. So it's living in a bag I made earlier in the year, and I've started to use it now that it's autumn, and I'm loving the lovely brown and gingery vibes of this. What I had was, I thought I had 75 grams of this, but I've actually just found 2 more balls, so I've got 125 grams of this. It's a Drops Kid Silk Mohair, colour 03, and it's, I suppose it's a little bit similar to the orchid. It's pink, but it is a little bit purpley too. And I had 200 grams of a fingering weight yarn, which was dyed by Dusty Dimples quite a while ago. I've had this for a good few years too. Now I hope I'm going to say this correctly. The name of this yarn is Racefaber, which is, I think, a Swedish word for the excited, nervous feeling you get when you're about to embark on an adventure, which I think is quite appropriate for this knitting project. So I'm not sure if Dusty Dimples is dyeing right now. I don't think so. But this is an 80-20 mix of superwash merino nylon. And I had 2 100-gram cakes. And the reason it's not quite right is because the Corin cardigan, let me just refer to my notes because I wrote down all of the things I would usually forget to tell you. It is an all over lace, bottom up, drop shoulder cardigan. You can choose whether you want a round neck or a V-neck, long sleeves or short sleeves, but the pattern has been written for Aran weight yarn, but it does say that many testers knit it with DK. So technically I am making a DK here by holding these together, and they were very generous skeins. I weighed them. I've got 222 grams of the fingering weight yarn, so it may well be that I have to have short sleeves, but I think I should have enough to get a cardigan out of this. So I've cast on with the recommended needles, and I just chose probably technically my size, but one size bigger than I wanted because I'd quite like it to have a bit less ease, and that also should help with yarn quantity as well. So I chose the size 3, which is a 40.75 finished bust measurement, and here is my progress so far. So you start at the bottom with ribbing, I think it's 1 by 1, yeah, and then you go into this flat back and forth lace panel, which is very simple lace, yarn overs and knit 2 togethers and that kind of thing. And I am about 3 inches off where I'm going to need to start thinking about shaping and sleeves and all the rest of it. So far it's been very easy knitting, and I am loving how this fabric is working up and the beautiful combination of these yarns. The Dusty Dimples yarn is pretty, isn't it? I think it's absolutely beautiful. So I have still got more than half of the first ball left, and I think that's a good chunk of the cardigan underway, so I'm really hoping that I will have enough to get a finished cardigan out of it. The button band is knit separately, so if it really came to it that could be different, but I think I should have enough. If I could even get my sleeves down to elbow length, I think that would be wonderful, but I'm not going to be too fussy about the fit or the sleeve length, just so long as I have enough to make the cardigan. So I'm knitting on recommended needles, that's 5mm. I think these are Knit Pro Zings, and I'm very much enjoying it just because the fabric is so pretty. Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous of starting all of the shaping with lace work, and I think I'm probably going to go for the V-neck. I think that will be the most wearable. So yeah, we'll see. I hope I get on okay with that. I shall need to concentrate. But I'm very excited about knitting it, and thank you so much to Daniela for the inspiration. So on to the sewing section now, and I am wearing another version of the orchard dress. I think it was last month that I made a green one, and this month I decided to make one out of a cotton sateen. I've got a large leftover chunk here so I can show you the fabric closely. It's got this huge dinner plate sized floral pattern on it. I'm just cutting in from the future because when I was editing I noticed that I knocked the microphone when I told you where this fabric was from, so trying not to do that this time. I got this from Rainbow Fabrics, which is a shop that I order from online that sells overstock from the textile industry. It's a Tula pink fabric and it's extremely wide. I think it's over 2 meters wide. I think that they were intended to be quilt backing. I bought 2 meters of it, so I probably had over 4 meters in total, so it was more than enough to make an orchard dress. I'll stand up and show you, but I will also put in some cutaway footage so you can see it. It's full length. Actually, it was most undignified when I tried to stand up, so I'll just put the footage in. It was a lovely fabric that I've really enjoyed working with, and I'm really enjoying wearing. It's very soft. The orchard pattern, it's a free pattern I should say, from Helen's Closet, and there are no lines, seam lines or anything at all. There aren't even bust darts, so it was a really good combination to use this bold print because nothing breaks it up. You've just got this A-line front panel and back panel that you can just have an unspoiled, unbroken pattern. I used the same fabric for the bias binding, and that was a bit tricky. Being cotton sateen, it was quite bouncy and it didn't want to hold its double fold as I was making the bias binding, so I just used those dressmaking clips. I'll just get one. Just ironed my bias binding into shape and used these clips to hold it together until it was time to sew it on. So that was okay once I found that workaround, and I've made the full length version again, which I really like. I like wearing that with chunky boots, and that's a combination I've always liked, is a feminine floral dress, chunky heavy boots and a bit of cosy knitwear on top. And in fact I'm wondering if when I finish my Corin cardigan, if it might not go quite well with this, and if I've still got pink hair by that point, it really will be a pink extravaganza. And the best thing of all about this dress is that it's got pockets, so it probably won't be the last one I make, so let's see if another one turns up in next month's video. And I do have another really small sewing project that I wanted to show you, and it is a tea towel, which I started this project a long time ago and never completed it. I put bias binding around this plain white tea towel, and then for a long time I've been intending to sew a little embroidery in the corner. It's a little vintage embroidery, I'm guessing from the early 1950s, and it's a little glass lady. So I presume you would designate this tea towel for drying up your glassware. I'm not actually going to use this for my kitchen anymore. I'm using it as a pressing cloth at my ironing station. And I think that it's not the best example of needlework in the world, but I wanted to show it to you more so because another kind of hyper focus of mine a few years ago was these beautiful retro designs that they're so old now that they're in the public domain. The copyright has expired. I think copyright lasts for 70 years maybe, so all of these designs are floating around the internet, and I spent such a long time collecting screenshots of lots and lots and lots of them, because this is what people were doing in their homes 75 years ago. This is how they were decorating, and you've probably seen them, all sorts of gambling lambs and bunnies and kittens with days of the week and different things, and I just think that they're so pretty and so fun, and it would be a shame if they got lost in the mists of time, and I really enjoy keeping it going, and I think I'd like to do more of these. The reason I was sort of getting so into this is because I've got an embroidery machine, and I did hand draw the designs, scan them in, clean them up, and then have the machine work them up, and I did sell them on bags a few times. I've got like teapots dancing with saucers and a whole load of very bizarre vegetables dancing with each other and things like that. There's just so many great designs out there, so I'm just really glad to have her in the workroom as a little reminder of those designs. I do wish I'd done the glass in like single thread so it looked a bit more delicate, but you know, the point is more to just enjoy these designs, so I thought I would show you that too. I think that's everything for my personal making, so the last part of the video is going to be about my small business, Coco and Flora. So first of all, the employee of the month is Flora this month. She has done a lot of extra tidying up and organising around the studio, and although she mostly makes her own clothes, she does have a weakness for vintage pieces, as she calls them, so she requested as her prize for being employee of the month a Sylvanian dress. So I sourced one for her and she wanted to show it to you. I think you'll agree she looks really lovely and splendid in her dress. And she also wanted to show you her knitting, because she has cast on for a jumper for herself in this very beautiful, do you mind if I take it out and just show everybody, this very beautiful smoky blue mohair. She has started with a sleeve because she really hates Sleeve Island, and so she wants to get those out of the way first of all. So she just wanted to show you that at its beginning, so that hopefully next month when she comes on with her new jumper you can be able to see beginning to end of her work, and normally Flora can source her own fabrics and yarns. She does some deals with the local fairies, but she saw this in my stash and asked if I would make a couple of yarn balls for her, and I said of course. This is Drops Kid Silk again in colour number 39. I think that's a rather beautiful smoky blue. So that's employee news. And then for my part, I have been making some bags, so I thought I would show them to you now. I have leaned into the fact that winter is coming and made a few festive bags, but I've also made some all year round kind of bags, so I won't go too much into the details. That's all at my shop, cocoandflora.com, but let's just have a look at some pretty fabrics if you're interested anyway. So I had sewn up a few hexy floral motifs a while ago, and I chose a few to put onto flat pouches. So this is a nice sea themed one with the sailor in the middle and some turtles and a swimmer, and that's got gingham inside. I've got a small sized sock size project bag here, and that's got a Liberty flower with a Belle and Boo bunny in the middle, and inside that's got a lovely floral which has also got little hexagons in it too. All of my bags this month are trimmed with a little bow for the zip pull, and the background of all of these is a linen cotton blend. This is Mousy Brown, another sock size project bag with polka dots. And then a little bit more festive, I've made some of my patchwork bags. These ones I say are more like 200 gram projects, but I think you could get like 300 grams in there if you needed to. And so I've got lots of wintry blues and greys with some pops of red on this lovely bright red linen cotton, which I really like, and fairy lights inside that one. Then I've got a similar thing but with this lovely periwinkle blue, more wintry scenes, and inside this one snowflakes. Then I've got some really big bags, the biggest ones that I make really. I think these easily fit 300 grams and probably more. So I've got Mr. Bear, and he's got this lovely woodland fabric on the back and brown dots inside. And I've got Mr. Raccoon, and he's got a Amy Butler lacework fabric on the back and a Heather Bailey, I think this one's called Mod Beads, inside. I do have foxes and hedgehogs, but I've just got raccoons and bears in at the moment, but I have got foxes and hedgehogs if anyone's interested. Then back to some flat panels. I've got this, a more subtle red, I think this one is called Berry Red, and it's got white woven in as well, and that's got some vintage deer on and some poinsettia. It's a bit more retro vibes for this one, with the fairy lights inside again. This is my favourite of the bunch, this lovely winter scenes, and I feel like it looks like a window into that winter woodland in the middle. And I like the way it's a sawtooth block, but with these white based squares in the corner it also looks like a cross. And that has got a lovely surprise winter scene in there as well, with some lovely trees and creatures. So I like the fact that there's two winter scenes in that one, and that's another flat pouch. Oh, and it's got like a snowflake looking detail around the border. And here is a non-winter one, another flower of Hexies with a stripy kitten in the middle, and then it's got the tomato red linen and a glittery gold rose linen around the edge, and the lining in this one is red and pink, and that one does have a pocket. If it gets to a certain size, I put a pocket in the flat pouches, if it gets big enough for you to lose stuff inside it. And then finally I've got a couple of waste not want not pouches, which is the panels that I make with the smaller offcuts of fabric, so that they don't miss their chance to be part of something. So I've got that one with lots more wintry based pictures, and that's just got a little surprise winter scene in as well. And finally another bright red one with the retro deers on, and some, I always think this kind of 1960s Christmas scene with the cars and the Christmas trees on top, and that's got some lovely silvery Liberty wheelchair inside. So they are all in my shop right now if you fancy having a look. Well, I think that's pretty much everything that I have to share with you this month, so thank you very much for joining me to talk through it. Before I go, I wondered if I could ask you a cheeky favour, and that cheeky favour is, if you are in a position to do so, would you kindly leave me a comment, even if it's just an emoji like a smiley face or a waving hand or something. And I'm not asking for algorithm reasons, I'm asking for my own reasons of just encouragement to keep doing this, because my kind of confidence in what I'm doing here and like just hitting record basically goes up and down. I think that the world is a very turbulent place right now. A lot of people are going through a lot of stuff, and it really affects my ability. I don't know about you, it affects my ability to be positive, and my resilience ebbs and flows, and I don't know, I just feel like I would appreciate feeling the connection and the community. My two penneth on it, not that anybody's asked, but I'll tell you anyway, and the way I encourage myself when I'm feeling like this is that when the world is in turmoil like this, I actually think it becomes more important to share our kindness and our creativity with the things that we make, like with our hearts and with our hands. So I think that whether it's a pair of socks or a podcast or a beautiful picture for Instagram of your latest yarn purchase, I think it is significant. I think every drop in an ocean makes an ocean, and probably there's never been a better time to create with our hearts, and that maybe that's the way forward for us at this time. So yeah, thank you for being here, I really do appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Stick around for some rare footage of October if you would like to, and I look forward to catching up with you again next month. Bye for now. Sorry about the snoring dog noises.